Through many births, I have wandered on and on, searching for, but never finding, the builder of this house.
You know, I have to admit this is a very cleverly hidden clue, because she says, searching for the builder of this house, and that's a quote which seems like, trying to find God through science or something like that. But really, it's actually a reference to trying to find the end game credits. Trying to find the credits for the game of who made this. Because you will search far and wide and you won't find them if you've already passed through the first gate. But if you haven't passed through the first gate, then they're achievable by doing the sun thing, which I'm going to show later on, as you'll see. But I think that's a very clever little reference that they threw in there. I basically got, all the lasers pointed up now by this point. There's, one more in a super hard town that hasn't been done yet, but by the time I'm recording this, I actually have done that town, and you'll be seeing it later on. Oh, here's recording.
Of all the communities available to us, there's not one I would want to devote myself to, except for the Society of True Searchers, which has very few living members at any time. Albert Einstein, 1924.
It's Albert Einstein. I love that guy. He makes some fantastic quotes all throughout this game. Long story short, I was looking around to try to find more of these hidden things. And yes, there are a lot of them. And oh my god, there are so many of them. Oh my god, seriously. There needs to be a Reddit thread. There probably is one, actually, that's dedicated to finding these. Because I imagine that one person by himself probably couldn't find them all. Unless they spent a year looking for them. Saying 100+ hours is kind of a gross understatement. So I came to this space because I knew that there was unsolved puzzles I saw from the boat, and I found them. I'm like, oh, it's these, the palm tree thing that I was trying to figure out earlier. You learn how to do it from this area. It basically teaches you the basics. So I went through these, and I was like, it doesn't work at all. And then I had to change my perspective, and suddenly it all made sense again. It's like, okay. And this one I like, because at first I thought, maybe I have to use those rocks again, because I was looking at it, and I'm like, how do I even get this to begin to line up? But it turns out you actually have to look at the reflections in the water and draw around those instead. But this apparently took me a little bit to figure that one out because I'm making a mistake here. There we go. This is when I figure it out. I'm like, yeah, okay, I see where this is going. Yeah. Boom. There we go. And then on to the next. And now, for this last one, it's the palm trees. And I'm like, okay, so this is teaching me about the palm trees. This is where the stump kind of happens at. I didn't quite line that up perfectly, but I got the gist of what I was trying to do. And then I was ready to take on the actual palm trees, wherever they may be. So I was happy about that and finding out that perspective. And yeah, it's not really the stump, it's actually the leaves themselves can actually go in the spot too. But anyway, on to more puzzles. This is enough of me just staring around blankly trying to find something. An interesting thing I noticed is that in my running around aimlessly just trying to find puzzles, I found a lot of doors that I hadn't opened that basically can be used as shortcuts. I also found these people that were doing these shady back dealings and playing card games and stuff. I'm not really sure what all they're doing back there, but it looks like it's something that would happen underneath a building, like a boat dock or something. Pretty fun stuff altogether. I also found this lake, and I was very happy about finding that little archipelago or whatever that kind of body of water you want to call that. I called it a lake, but I'm not sure if that's the right word. More like a tidal pool? A tidal pool. Perfect description, yes. And then I scaled the mountain, and when I got to the top, I was really surprised by what I found. Now let me stop the video for just a moment and describe how I'm feeling here, because I was not prepared for this level of anarchy. I was not prepared to find out that all these lasers have been doing all along was flipping these little locks off of this one switch so that it could be enabled. And that could lead to essentially an ending to the game where, good job, you did all the panels, but you didn't draw on any surfaces. So I'm right now just in this absolute freak out where in my brain I cannot process that I am already at the end of the game. This is the layman's ending of the game. This is a person who paid $40 and wanted to get their $40 worth. You've been playing for 35 hours, and now you've got a 5-hour long gauntlet ahead of you or something to finish it off. And here I am, having done all this and having gotten this far and having played for almost a week now, doing all of these puzzles every time I came home from work, and I'm already done with the face puzzles. Like, I haven't even completed the super difficult town, which I thought was going to be like the final gauntlet to get the last laser and proceed onward. But no, this was it. This is the end. This is the final thing you do on the surface, and everything from here on out is essentially under the mountain, and who knows what's below. But let's find out together, shall we?
Again. And you don't even see him. At that wake-up scene, the Mid-East, you know there are hundreds of people killing each other over some imaginary line that you can't see. From where you see it, the thing is a whole, and it's so beautiful. And you wish you could take one from each side in hand and say, look at it from this perspective. Look at that. What's important?
So begins the real trial, and I mean the real trial of puzzles. Because up until this point, all the puzzles have been training for this, and trust me when I say that these are some of the hardest in the game. But honestly, after going through all of this, and going through all the madness, and the really hard puzzle town, in retrospect, these were actually pretty easy and straightforward, especially the ones involving 3D space. You just had to think about them in a very roundabout way to come to that conclusion. I wanted to look at all these monitors here to see how many of these are actually just a projected like image or texture or screenshot, and how many of them are actually in real time. The ones that actually show the path that's laid out, like the bridge, that clearly is a real-time shot. It might not be live, but it could be like a real-time screenshot that was taken of an event. And I'm really not sure how good Jonathan Blow's projected textures are in this, but considering all of the puzzles are in a way like a projected 2D texture, I'm pretty sure he can do some pretty awesome things with the screens that we haven't even seen or actually seen implemented. But as he said, this was the best kind of game he could make at his time. So I wonder how many, or at this time, not at, at this time, I wonder how many of these could actually be construed as like projected, or how many of these are like hidden away somewhere and like it's just a very simple, like I really don't even know where he began in assembling the way this game works, because it's not in any engine I'm aware of. I think it was custom built. So yeah, pretty awesome stuff, all things considered, and amazing product at the end of the day. But let's go ahead and stare at me as I try to solve this puzzle from across the room, because I don't even know I can build a bridge yet. And I had a lot of frustrating moments trying to get the second one in that row, because you actually have to click off of the map. You don't click on the grid where you want to go next. You click where you're supposed to start from, and just assume that the screen is off tilt, but all of your movements on that screen will still register as the way they're supposed to. So I'm sure with a game controller, that is hell. That is absolute hell. But so for me, I was just like, I'm not even gonna try to figure that out yet. But so then I moved on to these, and they're fairly difficult, especially since you have to run over. I don't think it's every corner, but every other corner has a dot on it that needs to be eaten up. So I made sure to find all the dots and eat them. And then I came back here and I was like, I still don't know how to do that. But then I started solving the puzzles in the middle, wondering if that was going to like lift up the platform in the middle. And I was super disappointed when it didn't. But I at least found the solution there, so I was happy there after way too damn long. So if you see like a transition like that, it's because I edited out far too much video footage. Like I had like 3 recordings in a row that were done. They were like 20 minutes long each to 45 minutes long each, and I was just cutting them out and fading to the next one, because you don't need to sit and watch me puzzle through some of these forever as I did. So I guess some of these were difficult, but others were more difficult because the information was kind of obscured. But once I figured it out, I was able to piece out what I was missing to get the puzzle actually solved, if that makes any sense. Like I didn't notice that dot there for the longest time until I saw it, and I was like, oh, okay, I need to include that, and there we go. And here, I don't even know where to begin with this one, because it's at a 45-degree angle, and it's really confusing to figure out what you're supposed to do, since really you have free rotation on everything except the bottom right. So the bottom right's the only one that needs to be 3 across, and everything else can sort of be freeform. But because the path is blocked on every possible rotation you could think of off the top of your head, except for the one that actually works, it took me a while to puzzle that one out too, obviously. And once I connected everything together, I was like, all right, there we go. That's going to be my solution, and it worked. I'm like, good enough. Now this one, I cheated. I straight up cheated. You know what I did? I didn't look up the answer on the internet. I cheated. And I did that by using the video recorder itself. So as I was drawing the line, I would Alt-tab into the recorder and look at where I was. So that way, while the map is scrambled up and moving around, so that's why you might see it pauses, I'm like, where am I now? What am I doing? And that was my way of basically solving the puzzle, because damn it if I didn't want to have to deal with that at all. I was just like, I've had enough today. I have been doing this for so long. Please don't jumble it up and shake it around and rotate it in front of my eyes as I'm trying to solve it. I then found this puzzle, and I was like, oh, maybe I can solve it from back here. And my biggest mistake I made was trying to solve it, 1, for back here, and 2, from the left side. The ultimate solution was to solve it from the right. But first, I'm going to go through this section, and then we're going to get to the middle. And when I went to the middle, there's a guy like in a box, and he's like stretching out. He's like stuck in it, and it reminded me of a Skinner box. And it's really funny because, not an actual Skinner box. The Skinner box itself is more like something you raise a child in. But it reminded me of the phrase. And then, lo and behold, right next to it, a quote by B.F. Skinner.
The relation between the controller and the controlled is reciprocal. The scientist in the laboratory studying the behavior of a pigeon designs contingencies and observes their effects. His apparatus exerts a conspicuous control on the pigeon, but we must not overlook the control exerted by the pigeon. The behavior of the pigeon has determined the design of the apparatus and the procedures in which it is used. Some such reciprocal control is characteristic of all science. As Francis Bacon put it, nature, to be commanded, must be obeyed. The scientist who designs a cyclotron is under the control of the particles he is studying. The behavior with which a parent controls his child, either aversively or through positive reinforcement, is shaped and maintained by the child's responses. A psychotherapist changes the behavior of his patient in ways which have been shaped and maintained by his success in changing that behavior. A government or religion prescribes and imposes sanctions selected by their effectiveness in controlling citizen or communicant. An employer induces his employees to work industriously and carefully with wage systems determined by their effects on behavior. The classroom practices of the teacher are shaped and maintained by the effects on his students. In a very real sense, then, the slave controls the slave driver, the child, the parent, the patient, the therapist, the citizen, the government, the communicant, the priest, the employee, the employer, and the student, the teacher. B.F. Skinner, 1971.
2 major schools of Zen exist in Japan, the Rinzai and the Soto. Both have the same goal of seeing the world unmediated, but their approaches are different. In the Soto school, the emphasis is on quiet contemplation in a seated position without a particular focus for thought. The method in the Rinzai school, however, is to put the intellect to work on problems that have no logical resolution. Such problems are known as koans, from the Chinese kengan, meaning public announcement. Some are mere questions. For example, when your mind is not dwelling on the dualism of good and evil, what is your original face before you were born? Others are set in a question and answer form, like, what is the Buddha? Answer, 3 pounds of flax, or the cypress tree in the courtyard, to name but 2 of the classic responses. According to tradition, there are 1,700 such conundrums in the Zen repertoire, and their common aim is to induce a kind of intellectual catastrophe, a sudden jump which lifts the individual out of the domain of words and reason into a direct, non-mediated experience known as Satori. Zen differs from other meditative forms, including other schools of Buddhism, in that it does not start from where we are and gradually lead us to a clear view of the true way of the world. It is not a progressive system in this respect. The sole purpose of studying Zen is to have Zen experiences. Sudden moments, like flashes of lightning, when the intellect is short-circuited and there is no longer a barrier between the experiencer and reality. David Darling, 1996.
Quote from David Darling, I definitely am feeling a lot of Satori right now as I try to zen my way through these puzzles. Let me tell you, this game is all about puzzle zen. Like, if you don't appreciate puzzle zen, then you won't have any real appreciation for the game. And it's, I guess, a very obscure audience. Like, people who like games like Sudoku and things like that would be very much enthralled, I think. But at the same time, like, the first-person perspective would alienate people who'd be into that. So I can understand why the game is getting some criticism for that sake, but damn if I'm having fun, because, you know, this is the kind of game I wanted to play. Like, I love when I see a puzzle board, I just want to just solve it. I'm like in real life now, drawing lines everywhere. I'm like, oh, there's a circle and a line, it's connected. Anyway, so here's some water flooding down that creates the waterfall down below that's rather beautiful and cascading inside the mountain. And look at these little sculptures of the windmills. They're so cute. I was like, sure there was going to be something on them, like a hidden thing, and no, it's just there to be beautiful. Like there's a to scale, not to scale, but there's a perspective-based model of the sort of forest you run into earlier, and you make the paths through. And yeah, it's a beautiful little view. I never even noticed the place from, you know, down below because it's so far away and up on the side of the mountain. I like this guy with the hard hat on. It looks like he's like going spelunking, you know, or maybe he's just a worker in a cave. I'm not sure what those lights were about, but I tried to do something with it and nothing happened. And then, welcome to the psychedelic hellscape that is, it's like somebody just turned on a PS2 and now we're playing LSD Dream thingamajig. I don't remember the name of the game exactly, but that's what this feels like, and oh god, the eyes hurt just looking at these, but thankfully they're not all flashing, so I can just sort of keep that in my periphery, because you cannot get that out of your periphery. But yeah, so a lot of these are just, you know, me just drawing from a screenshot in MS Paint, thank god, because screw it, and then trying to recreate the drawing and solve them. That's what I did. And so there's your tip: take a screenshot and it won't move, and then try to figure it out from the screenshot. That's all I can say, really, because But so here we have a puzzle over a ravine that seems like you solve it this go around, but you don't solve it this go around. No, you'll be revisiting this one, as you'll soon see. I go to the other side, and then I solve these puzzles. And if you've been watching the end credits, you might recognize these, because it's basically, or not end the end title card of my videos. Sorry, why did I call it credits? If you're watching the end title cards of my videos, you might notice these were there, because I was especially proud of how I figured these out. But you basically have to just take a screenshot of each puzzle individually, and then merge them all together to make a single puzzle that is all the puzzles. That was my advice for doing it. That's what I did. So it's basically just solving one big complicated puzzle that is made up of discordant, disconnected parts. So right away I noticed a problem. I couldn't even complete the puzzle on this side to power open the door. So then I had to go back over to the other side and draw the map in a more efficient way that used as little space as possible. Then I headed back over there and closed it off, and I was like, alright, but then how do I reach the door? So then I realized I had to draw back on the green line again. But by drawing on the green line, I was also kind of running into a problem where I couldn't block off both the black and the white square. So I then, using even more, you know, having even more space to my availability by having one of the sections cut off, I was then able to do this. Then I went back over to the other side after doing just a single line, and then I was able to do that. Then I went back to the green line, and then using the green line I could finally draw a line to the exit, because I now no longer had to worry about black and white. The orange line was handling the black and the white section split. Yeah. And there's just then, that was the greenhouse with all the flowers and the literal green room that you see from the window. That was cool to see. I don't recognize where the shipping containers were at, but I'm sure there was some place in the game that had those. I just don't remember them. So for this one, you just have to leave one out and then use one. And by using the block, you end up drawing the literal shape of the block, and then the shapes of the blocks become the blocks themselves that you have to fit within basically a square space like this, what I did. I'm sure there's a couple different ways you can solve the puzzle, but this is the way that worked for me. And if you want to reuse it, because this one took at least an hour to figure out, or maybe more, you can just do that. I don't even know how long these are taking me anymore. I've basically lost track. So I found this, and I'm like, that screen looks like it should be activated, but I'm guessing that I haven't found all the Easter egg puzzle things yet that you're supposed to fill in, and once you do that, you basically figure it out. I like the design of it, though, how it's like a puzzle designer on the ground trying to draw up something. These boards are randomized, so far as I can tell. They are completely random every time. And they're easy, though, so, just do them in the time limit that they allow, which is about 15 seconds, and that should give you enough time to do the simple puzzle. Okay, so now we've entered into the new hellscape, which is three-dimensional puzzles wrapped around columns. And trust me when I say that these were not the easiest thing for me to comprehend. I don't know why I had trouble with these, but man, they gave me trouble. So I'm going to do you all a favor, and I'm going to speed up to 32 times speed right now. So we are now going at... Wait, this is 16. Sorry. We're at 16 times speed right now. As I'm very slowly drawing around the map saying, okay, how do I do this? How do I do that? I imagine if you were using a PlayStation controller and you didn't know by this point the speed up button, this would be just the worst thing ever. So sorry to all those controller users out there that are not using the speed up button. Yeah, I think it's the run button, basically. The button you use to run, but do it while you're drawing. And there you go. You should speed up, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong, because I don't play with a controller, I play with a mouse, because then I can just switch it all around and, be as fast as I need to be. This one I kind of liked. I liked this one because I was like, oh yeah, I immediately visually got it, but then it was like a pain to like figure out and count the number of blocks and be like, okay, how do I line them up? But once I got that one solved, I was like, yeah, that was fun. This one, not so fun, but I was still able to at least figure it out faster than the ones that are all using the blossom/star things. And oh, look. What is this elevator going to be for? What is it even about? Find out in the next video. And don't worry, this isn't the end of the series. I said I'm going to 100% run. So the first thing I'm going to do, obviously, in this recording after it's done is save my position so I can go back to it.